You're listening to the Multiverse Fancast, proud member of the Misfit Faction Media Network.
All right, then. On with the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Multiverse Fancast. Don't forget, if you guys are listening to us on the go, you can find us on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, basically anywhere you get your podcast. You can also find more of our content on our website, themisfitfaction.com. There you find links to not only this show, but some of our other shows like Cinematic Adventures and MF Uncensored. As always, I'm one of your hosts, Paul. With me in the studio, straight from Cinematic Adventures and Your Mom's Diary, is Sean. Sean, how are you today?
I am great, Paul. How are you?
I am doing all right. And via the Zoom studio, because dramatic diva, who just has to make things difficult, I guess, is Ronnie. Ronnie, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you all?
No, we're okay. We're here. You know, just hanging out. Just hanging out in person. I even bought beers for Sean in case he wants to get wild.
First time hearing of it.
Have 3 for me.
I don't want to do that. That's a lot. That's a lot of beers. That is a lot of...
Yeah, Paul can't do that anymore.
You just see me drinking 3 at once. You know what movie we were watching last night? Project X.
I never saw it.
Wow.
There was a convoluted way that we got to watching Project X, and then we ended up watching the whole thing for some strange reason, but
Sounds like a normal night for you guys.
I forgot how much fun that movie is, and how, like, that's the movie, like, that's the dream at one point, you know, when we were youngins. But anyway.
What are you talking about? We reenacted that thing at your house all the time. We had parties like that.
No, we didn't.
Yeah,
no, we didn't. We had one funnel that we shared and never cleaned.
Yeah.
We're alive.
Are we, though?
We're alive. We're alive and disease-free.
For the most part, I hope. But anyway, this got weird.
Wow,
So,
Paul. Way to be depressed.
all right, thanks, man. But anyway, so we have not done a character study in quite some time. And unfortunately, at the end of June, kind of the superhero movie trend starts to slow down a little bit. We had a great month of Spider-Verse.
God.
Really? Thank God?
It's just too much.
Oh, I'm sure Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny really saved everything.
It hasn't come out yet, so we don't know.
At time of release, it has. So, I'm gonna edit in. I'm gonna edit in my poor thoughts on it. But anyway, so we haven't done a character study, and one of the things that inspired me to do this one is this character recently appeared on Superman and Lois for the first time, and I was like, man, there are so many different versions of this character, and there is no traditional like archetype to this character, even though there is a traditional arc. It's very strange. Like, this character is a unique character, and it's fun. He's fun to talk about, and Sean and I and Ronnie have all different versions of who our version of this character is. So, for those of you guys who don't know, because you didn't read the description of the episode where I normally put what we're talking about, we are talking... I don't know why I built up so much mystery and anticipation. They probably read it.
I don't know either.
They probably read it. Like,
You can do it.
I'm going to do like a fake title just to throw everybody off now. So if you're reading that fake title, haha, gotcha. But anyway, we are talking about the one and only Lex Luthor.
Double L.
Double L, alliteration. A lot of alliteration in comics.
Mr. Luthor.
Mr. Luthor. They also had Otis in Superman and Lois as well. Yeah. So let's start off really quick with just some initial thoughts about Lex Luthor as a character. I'm going to go to Ronnie first because he's on Zoom, and God only knows if that's going to hold out on us because we've had issues. Go.
Hey, it will hold out. I trust it this time. But as far as Lex Luthor, he is by far one of the best villains to ever touch, a comic book. I believe he's so well known. He's up there with the Joker, Penguin, all them guys. Obviously, he's 2 steps ahead of Penguin, but those 3 are like the most well-known ones. Mm-hmm. We've seen him quite a few times now in media when it comes to TV and movie. Some have been good, some have been bad. I don't think there's really ever been a great Lex Luthor.
Easy, Sean.
Oh,
okay. Sean agrees. Sean agrees.
Okay.
I'm not.
I mean, the closest we had is probably Jesse Eisenberg.
Now easy, Sean.
I don't have a problem with Eisenberg. You have the problem with Eisenberg.
I actually don't have a problem with Eisenberg.
I have some select just to watch you two bicker.
Ronnie's just trying to start shit. There we go.
You gotta be starting.
Pretty much.
Always gotta be starting something.
I think Eisenberg did not get a fair shot at. I think because of the writing, but what he portrayed was
sounds like a DC movie.
But like again, this is one that there's really nothing special to him. Like he's got money and he's super smart.
Those are two really great things. There's nothing special about him. He's rich and super smart.
I'm talking about if you look at some of your villains that you've had, they've been like godlikes or metahuman, superhuman type of thing. There's very few big named villains that are human other than like him and Joker.
So I want to point out that I should have let Ronnie just keep listing all the attributes. He's not special. He's rich. He's smart, jacked, probably well endowed, like all these things. But he's not that special. And we're just sitting here like, oh. He sounds
he
pretty.
Just described us.
He sounds. Yeah, I have $14 in my wallet right now, and that was to buy pizza for Sean. But
Pizza.
All right, Sean. Initial thoughts on Lex Luthor.
Initial thoughts: he is the most iconic villain, obviously. I think in the Superman lore. There's other villains in Superman, like Darkseid, Brainiac, Mxyzptlk, but when you think Superman, you think Lex Luthor. Just like when you think Batman, you think the Joker. It's a character that has progressed since he was first introduced in the 40s. He was a mad scientist, and then in the 80s they turned him into basically like just a rich
corporate America
CEO, and that's really kind of how we've seen him since. It'd be interesting to see if they ever brought him back to becoming like a mad scientist, but yeah, he's, as Ronnie said, we've seen him now in media, a bunch of times, from Gene Hackman to Kevin Spacey to Jesse Eisenberg, and then we see him on TV. And I don't think any performance is the same. Right. Really. Everyone adds something different to the performance. So I think that's another good thing about the character is he's a broad character that you can do whatever you want with him.
So for me, Lex Luthor, he ranks among some of the best DC villains. Like, obviously when it comes to Superman, you have two options. You have characters that can challenge him physically, then characters that challenge him mentally, and Lex Luthor has done both. Whether it's using technology to go toe-to-toe with him physically or just outsmarting him. And it's like Sean said, there's been a lot of different versions of the character. He started off as just a mad scientist, like the mad scientist. Like, I'm just going to take over the world for funsies because I can and I'm smarter than you. And over the years, he's constantly changed, constantly evolved. At times, he's been an anti-hero to a point. Like, there have been iterations of him where he's like, I'm not a bad guy. I'm just trying to protect Earth and humans. Like, he's like, Superman does not deserve to be, like, all deified, basically. Sometimes it's ego, sometimes it's pride. Like, there's a lot of different motivations behind Lex Luthor, and I like that they finally made him a layered character. Some characters can just be simple. Like, the Joker's a very simple character in terms of motivation. He just likes chaos. That's fine. That's why you don't always need a backstory or an explanation or a reason. Like, sometimes it's just bad for being bad. Lex is one of those characters that does a great job at over-encompassing a lot of different things. Because, like, you have a character like Doomsday, where it's just like, I just kind of want to kill Superman. I want to kill everything. Like, that's Doomsday. That's his thing. That's all he needs. But you got Lex Luthor, who's like, well, I want to, do X, Y, Z, G, Q, everything. Like, and every time somebody writes for him, they write him a little bit differently. But there are some consistencies in character. The first and foremost is that he is bald.
Yes.
He has been bald for quite some time. There have been different reasons as to why he's been bald. At one point, it was because of an experiment that Superboy interrupted, and, like, he lost his hair. In Smallville, it was from the meteor shower. I think in the movies, they don't actually, or the Gene Hackman ones, they never actually say why he's bald.
Just that he's bald and he's wearing a wig. They never establish why he became bald or how he became bald.
In Superman and Lois, he shaves his head. And then, yeah, so, like, there are a lot of different reasons, but there's a new trend among Lex Luthors, and I want to hear you guys' thoughts on it. Especially you, Ronnie, because it is a trend that you are quite a fan of. Are you ready?
I'm ready if you're ready.
Lex Luthor with a beard.
I am a fan.
I know, as he rubs his beard. Ronnie's literally rubbing his beard. Sean's probably a fan, too.
It's not like a good beard.
I don't like the beard.
Really?
For him.
Really?
I like the clean shaven from toes to head look. Maybe, I don't know.
I thought John Cryer pulled off a good look when he did his stint.
Yes.
And that's where it started. John Cryer started with the beard and the balds. Then it followed with Titans. They had their Lex Luthor, same thing, bald with the beard. And now Superman Lois, bald with the beard. I think I don't have a problem with it, which is strange. Normally I'm a little bit of a... It's like changing Superman's hair color a little bit, like something like that.
It's like taking the shorts off of Superman's costume.
Or like you look at like Captain America, Chris Evans has brown hair. Steve Rogers traditionally had blondes. Like they still make it work though, and I think it's one of those more interesting aesthetic choices, and I have no problem with it per se. But let's talk a little bit about. We're gonna not do so much the comics because that's almost. It's almost 90 years of comic book history. Because, like, as far as Lex Luthor, I think he was. Let's see, when did he actually premiere?
1940.
1940. Oh my God.
It's Action Comics number 23.
So, like, 87 years ago. Quick math? No, I'm wrong.
No. 83 years ago.
Oh, I got my 3 and my 7 mixed up in my brain. All right, that was still not bad.
Close.
Yeah,
That's close.
In the infinite number of numbers, I was
you
very
work
close.
In a school level all the time, but
I know, right?
Good for you.
Yeah. But we're going to talk more about how he's been portrayed in popular media. You got your TV shows, your animated, and obviously your movies. So let's start. We're going to start with films because I think for all three of us, it's safe to say that our first interaction with Lex Luthor was the Christopher Reeve films.
Yes.
Ronnie, would you agree?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure you're actually still there because for some reason Ronnie's audio comes in perfectly, but his Zoom is glitching out so terrifyingly.
It's okay.
It's like that scene in Man of Steel when Zod comes on the television. Yeah. You are not alone. Oh God, no. But anyway, so let's start with Sean because Sean is a movie aficionado. You should check him out on Cinematic Adventure. Shameless plug. But let's talk Gene Hackman, Christopher Reeves, and that. He was in 3 of the movies.
Yeah.
One, two, and four. All right. So why don't you talk a little bit about that?
I mean, it's when they did Superman back in the late 70s. I mean, Lex Luthor was it. I mean, that was the villain. You had to have Lex Luthor in the movie. And Gene Hackman was an Academy Award-winning actor. It was absolutely a known star to put above the title to try and get people and audiences to come to the theater. And he plays it very similarly, not over the top. It's kind of like Jack Nicholson with the Joker. Mm-hmm. It's perfect. You don't really know what he is. Is he a scientist? What is he? Is he a billionaire? He lives in this old abandoned subway. So I would say he's more toward the mad scientist Lex Luthor than he is like the CEO,
Yeah,
billionaire.
I don't think he has an actual like company or anything.
He's also known by the police. He's just kind of like this elusive, arch mega villain that, we don't really know what his status is in the world, but it's again not much to the character, just that he wants to destroy the world. He wants to for his own purposes. As we find out, it's like a real estate thing. He wants to set off a nuclear bomb in a certain part of the country, and this way he can buy the land at a really cheap price.
Dumbest thing.
It's that's really it. I mean, but again, it's just one of those, just little enjoyable performances. There's not much depth to the character as we see later on in other portrayals. So that's really it for him.
He's a little bit more comedic in this.
Yeah,
it's
definitely more of a comedic turn. It really is. But that's the movie. The movie was kind of designed for that.
Yeah, like it's weird that the villain is the comedy source. Like between him and Otis, next time wait till I'm out of the pool. Yeah. But I actually preferred him in Superman 2, even though he's not the main villain. Mm-hmm. I had a lot more fun with him. Superman, thank God. I mean, get him! Like, that kind of Lex Luthor. But again, you don't really find out, where did he get his money? Where did he, do all these,
Yeah, you don't know any of his backstory. You don't know any of that stuff.
Mm-hmm. And then, obviously, there was a bit of contention about him being bald. Because Gene Hackman was not bald. He wore a bald cap for the one scene that you see him in the first movie. And I think, obviously, the second one, too. But they do not show him bald for most of these movies.
In the second movie, you see him bald for
just in the beginning.
In the beginning,
yeah,
more than you see him in the first movie.
Oh yeah, and then I don't think at all in the fourth.
I can't remember.
Nuclear Man. Yeah, I know. We should watch the fourth. We should do a commentary on the fourth.
We watched it once. I don't know if I could sit through it again.
You could, not with that attitude. But now let's also talk, because technically the character is revisited and Superman Returns, because it is the same character.
Not really. No.
It's supposed to be. It's a loose sequel to. All right, but anyway, stupid. We'll talk about Kevin Spacey really quick. Now, we will also always disclaim that we do not like Kevin Spacey. But
I mean, he's a fantastic actor.
He is a fantastic actor. He has got some great work under his belt, but as a person, we don't like him. In this movie, Superman Returns, he's a little.
He plays the character a little more sinister,
little dry. Because this one, he has more of a vendetta. Like, he's also out to get Superman. And I still say that the scene where they're all beating the crap out of Superman is still a great Superman scene. But, Ronnie, what do you think about Kevin Spacey's portrayal in Superman Returns? My least favorite Superman movie.
I mean, that was only the second Lex we've had. And I think to live up to Gene Hackman's portrayal in it didn't really work. But the one thing that I did like better was he actually had a little bit more depth to his character in the movie, you know, and I do like the sinister side of Lex Luthor and not so much the wit and charm and comedy that we got from Gene Hackman's, though. But
I will say the one scene of his that makes me laugh, though, is when Lois Lane gets on the boat and she sees all the wigs and like the horror movie music plays, and then she turns around and he's like brushing his teeth, and he's like, and she's like, Lex Luthor, and he's like, well, we're fine, because he's got the toothbrush in his mouth. I don't know why, it just always made me laugh. But Sean, what do you think about Kevin Spacey and Lex Luthor?
It's pretty much just what Ronnie said. It's a more sinister portrayal with a few moments of comedy. It's different. He wasn't trying to copy Gene Hackman, you know, much to like what's his name was trying to copy Christopher Reeve, but it's just, again, it's just such a bad movie. It's hard to look back on and really find anything good about that movie.
The plane scene.
The plane scene is good, but even that just doesn't really hold up as much anymore.
It's a shame. Yeah, I think the best thing to come out of it was having him reprise the role on Legends.
Yeah, and that was
and do a
cool.
much better job. Yeah. much better.
Well, a much better job than crap is still crap.
Wow. All right.
Just saying.
God, not wrong.
Such DC haters.
I'm not a DC hater.
Such a DC.
Wait for our Flash episode, then you'll hear how much I'm a DC hater.
Woof. Wow, really? Interesting. All right, so
I don't know, maybe
I don't know, maybe not. So our next film portrayal is going to be Jesse Eisenberg.
Yes.
All right, so
I sense just like what's so good to talk about here? Like,
concept was good. The concept was fine with Jesse Eisenberg, like the Mark Zuckerberg type, like the Bill Gates, like awkward, eccentric kind of billionaire. And then they just didn't stick the landing. I always advocate that the best thing they could have done for that character is on the rooftop when he's talking to Superman, that he just suddenly drops this whole quirky facade and he's actually just like stone cold serious. That would have changed. That would have been worth a rewatch just to see him in the beginning of the movie. But they didn't do that. And I hate it because like the dialogue between him and Superman is really good. It just was acted poorly. Which is strange because I know Sean likes to defecate on the scripts of DC films in particular. Defecate, anyway. SAT word. But I do think that Batman vs. Superman, the script wasn't the issue per se all the time. It was just... It was choices, like aesthetic choices, visual choices, and then storytelling choices. Like on paper, the Martha things make sense. Like if you were to explain it to someone... Even though I've explained it to both of you ad nauseum and you both don't care.
Why'd you say that name?
Shut up. Just shut up. Just shut your mouth. You shut your mouth. Anyway.
He's explained it to us. Yes.
On paper, in concept, it makes total sense. It's just not executed well.
Yeah, it sounds like trying to build a good baseball team, Ronnie. It's just like, on paper, they were supposed to win 100 games. They just did not execute well, and they lost, lost 100 games.
Oh, so the Mets.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, damn it.
I am not hiding from the fact that my team sucks right now.
Sports. You guys should start a podcast about it. But anyway, shut up. Anyway, Jesse Eisenberg. I think the general consensus is we didn't particularly feel for him.
We did not.
No.
It was an interesting take on the character, as you pointed it out perfectly. You watching it, you're like, okay, this is interesting. I kind of like it. It's weird, whatever. They could have done so much better. But I will say this: his scene at the end of the other Justice League with him and Deathstroke, that was like, I want to see more now.
It was much better.
Yeah.
So there's a theory, because in Batman vs. Superman, the director's cut, when he gets captured, he's talking to Steppenwolf.
Mm-hmm.
And the original design for Steppenwolf, like the one that in the Snyder cut, and Steppenwolf's showing him the mother boxes. And then when they cut to the prison cell with him and Batman, there's more dialogue there. Like, he basically says, like, that's why I did all these things. It's a shame that they kind of cut that stuff. I think it would have been great. The best way they could have ended that movie, besides, I've put a lot of thought into this for some stupid reason.
have.
I've got a lot of time on my
Good
hands,
for
I
you.
guess. But having him drop this silly facade, like I said when he was talking to Superman, and then at the very end of the movie, instead of him getting arrested, he just walks into a room and like a monitor lights up and it's Steppenwolf, and he's like, all right, so our plan is happening. Like, with Superman's dead. That was like the goal. Something like that would have added motivation. It would have added all these things. Like, well, why is Lex Luthor working with Steppenwolf? Again, like, two very, very simple changes. That and the title. If they just changed the name of the title, it would have been a better movie. Because
Batman?
No, just Dawn of Justice. They literally called it that just for the marketing. Just because they think that it's a Batman and Superman movie. It made money. Like, people were going to go see it regardless. Anyway, God, I'm so mad.
He will never get over it.
I will never get over it.
The lost opportunities that they had.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's talk a little bit of television. Now, we're going to start with a fun one for Sean.
Oh, here we go.
Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman.
John Shea,
indeed.
He was the first time we ever saw Lex Luthor as like the billionaire CEO, and he had hair.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think they ever made him bald.
No.
So that was always a weird, portrayal of the character. You didn't see much of him. I think he was only in the first season.
Very sparingly,
and
yes.
Again, he really just was what he was. There was no real depth to his character. That's why I don't think they brought him back after the first season. Just didn't add much to it.
Also, that show's focus was purely on the relationship between Superman and Lois.
That show was camp. It was a campy show.
Oh my God, it was.
It was fun, but I think it was like, it didn't need Lex Luthor in it to make it what it was. It was a Creature of the Week show.
Oh, yeah. But
that's all it was.
Speaking of Creature of the Week, or Freak of the Week show, arguably, Sean and I are probably our favorite iteration of the character. Ronnie, I don't know your thoughts because you didn't do our Smallville episode, but that is Michael Rosenbaum as Lex Luthor.
Didn't someone just come out and say he was the best Lex Luthor?
It was said somewhere. I think James Gunn said it.
It was James Gunn. Yes, thank you.
Him and Rosenbaum are friends. That's why Rosenbaum has been in some of the Guardian stuff. But he had him on his podcast, Inside of You, which has one of the best opening theme songs of all time.
But yeah, James Gunn came out and said he was the best Lex Luthor on, I guess you could say on screen. And to be fair, he had the most time to portray the character of Lex Luthor on screen. Everyone else only got basically 90 minutes to 2 hours of screen time. So it's also a much different character the first 2-3 years of the show. He's basically...
We were rooting for him.
He's an anti-hero.
We wanted him to be okay.
We know what he's going to become, but we root for him. We like him. He's like, just a misunderstood, guy. And then he becomes, by season 5?
Season 5 or 6.
5 or 6, he just becomes flat out evil. There's nothing left for you to root for with him.
It's a shame.
But it was so good.
It was so good. And then when they brought him back for the final season, oh my God, still so good. Ronnie, did you ever watch Smallville?
I never watched Smallville.
We tried. We showed him the first episode, and it was painful to watch. We actually were like, "We're sorry, Ronnie. This is hard."
I've seen like episodes here and there, but I've never sat down and watched it in its entirety or watched maybe even a full season of it. I think it's just too old at this point.
Started season 4. Just started season 4. Work your way up.
Yeah. Honestly, I would say started season 6.
Oof, that's rough. Yeah.
Well, season 4 is season 4, I don't think is that great.
It's
You're only
not
saying
that
it
good.
because of Jensen Ackles.
I know. That's why that would be a hook for Ronnie.
I'm sold.
I know. That's all he
Of
needed.
course you guys are.
Well, Jensen Ackles was supposed to play Clark Kent in that show.
He
was the runner-up.
Wasn't Sherry Padalecki like third runner-up or something like that?
I don't know. That's an interesting thing.
Oh, no. What's the name? Ventimiglia.
Oh, Milo Ventimiglia?
I think he was up for it or something like that.
Huh.
I don't know that. Yeah, indeed.
Or the Vampire Diaries guy. I can't remember his name.
Oh, he guest starred on it. He was Lex
on it.
Luthor's
I think
brother.
that was
Yeah.
the thing. They promoted him as like, this is the guy that was going to be cast as Clark Kent.
Yeah, that's funny. All right, so we'll talk about the next one. I think I'm going to be the only one who's able to talk about it because I don't think you guys have seen any of this. But the Arrowverse John Cryer. Oh, you have, Ronnie.
I've seen John Cryer.
Oh, okay.
I watched Crisis with you.
You watched
Wow.
Crisis, but you guys didn't see him on Supergirl.
No.
Season 4.
Of Supergirl? Yeah. Are you just looking it up, or did you actually know
No,
that?
I watched. I think I watched that. Maybe I didn't. I don't know. I definitely have seen him on Supergirl.
Yeah. But I actually, when they announced John Cryer, I was like, really? Like, of all people? Like, right after I think it was pretty much right after 2.5 Men ended.
Yeah.
It was like
Not too long after, yeah.
It was like his first role afterwards, and we're like, John Cryer as Lex Luthor? I was super shocked at how much I actually like John Cryer in this.
He's got that voice. That you know, he had the voice to make it work. And
He also found a really good balance between campy Lex Luthor and diabolical Lex Luthor. And really, like, they just established him and Superman have had... And that was one of the better things about Supergirl. They could bring Superman villains in and just be like, oh, him and Superman have been fighting for years. I think in this iteration, though, Jimmy Olsen says that they were friends at one point and all that stuff. But they have a great scene of him. I forget what he was doing, but he's walking through this mansion that he actually booby-trapped, and like all these like guns and things are like firing and exploding, and like people are dying, and he's just walking through, like, and they have like this opera music playing. I was like, that is the definition of Lex Luthor. Just so smart, so well thought out. He outsmarted them in Crisis, if memory serves correct.
Yeah.
And then, of course, watching Tom Welling punch him in the face was awesome. You gave up your powers. Can't say I missed these conversations. That was a lot of fun. He was a good secondary antagonist, but again, I think he was the 4th season. I think Ronnie said, as the main villain. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he was only in that season for a couple episodes.
Mm-hmm. And then doesn't he? I think he dies. Oh yeah, Lena shoots him.
Yes.
Because they had Lena Luthor on the show, and that was like the big thing. And then the Monitor is the one that brings him back to help with the Crisis. Let's see. I'm just doing some reading, but I don't know. Yeah, like again, he's the one that like he turns to Superman against each other, and then he goes like world to world trying to kill all the Supermen because it's Lex Luthor. That's what I like a very simple like this is what I do. But anyway.
Yeah.
And then the last live action, all right, we have 2 more live action ones that I wanted to bring up. So Superman and Lois, as I mentioned, has just revealed their Lex Luthor, and it has been established that Superman and Lois does not take place on the same Earth as Kara and that version of Superman, even though it's the same actor. But Tyler Hoechlin.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. But so in the beginning of the show, we were led to believe that a character was Captain Luthor, and he was bald, but he was like wearing a mechanized suit. He was also a different ethnicity, which, you know, they do that now. But we find out later that that wasn't the case. But they finally introduced their version of Lex Luthor, played by Michael Cuddles?
Cuddles?
No, C-U-D. I don't know how to pronounce this last name. Kuddles. The guy from Walking Dead. But anyway, he's one of the guys from Michael.
I still don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce this guy's last name. And Cudlitz? Cudlitz. We'll go with Cudlitz. Michael Cudlitz.
Chicken cutlets?
No chicken cutlets. Get out of here. But I've only seen him. They had him in one episode at time of recording. The season finale is coming up next. And oh my God, he was scary in it. Like, scary. Basically, this version of Lex Luthor was put in jail by Lois Lane about 17 years prior. And he's just been in Stryker's Island just waiting. And he's finally out because they found out that the evidence that was against him was actually not true. So he gets...
Fun fact.
Hit me.
The actor that plays Lex Luthor, I'll give you $100 if you can guess what movie he was in back in the 90s that you and I really enjoy.
I don't know. And you don't have $100, so...
I could get $100.
Oh my God! All right, you gotta give me a genre. A movie in the 90s that we liked.
Disney.
I'm never
Live action.
Aladdin.
Not helping.
Well, because if I give anything else away, it's too easy.
Blank check.
No. Sports.
Brink.
No.
Airbud.
Mighty Ducks. 2, 3.
D3, the Mighty Ducks.
I said that. Sean owes me $100. You guys all...
No, you didn't say the
Who is
title
he in?
right. He's one of the...
Oh, he's one... Oh, my God, yes.
He's the one that gets lassoed by...
He's the one that flips through the glass, and he comes up, he's like, oh, yeah, wow, I see it. Oh, my God, my brain. That hurts. Wow. Wow. Interesting. But anyway, yeah. Only been in one episode at time of recording, and he is scary. Like, they are going much more with the...
Is he bald? He's bald with the beard?
So when he first gets into prison, he has hair, but there's a story about him getting a pair of clippers, and the people who he takes the clippers from, one of them is Otis. Yes. And Otis learns that Lex Luthor's in charge very, very quickly. And I don't want to give it away because I still advocate highly for Superman and Lois. It's still one of the best superhero shows of all time, in my opinion. And I really even Melanie, when I'm watching it, she'll catch it and she'll stop and she'll start watching it because it's just that engaging. Also, Tyler Hoechlin's just a beefcake. I'll say it on the podcast. Oh, sorry.
I prefer cheesecakes.
I was about to say, if I had said chicken cutlet, would you have been like, yeah? Maybe. But then one more, we have Titans just did their live action Lex Luthor, and he is played by Titus Welliver. Only in a couple of episodes, but again, he had a long beard and bald. He did fine.
He's another actor that's really good.
Yeah, I dig him. He was in Lost, Deadwood, Sons of Anarchy.
Bosch.
But I don't think I ever saw Bosch. But so one more Lex Luthor that I really want to talk about because this is kind of my Lex Luthor growing up.
Clancy Brown,
yes.
I knew it.
Mr. Krabs.
Animated Superman the Animated Series, Lex Luthor. Again, just such a great iteration of the character. And they kept him around for a while, too. He did Superman. He did Justice League Unlimited.
He's like Mark Hamill of the
Batman. They had episodes together, the two of them, which is great. They went with the Kryptonite Cancer storyline, which is... There are some storylines from the comics that have been adapted a few times. Him becoming president's a big one. Him getting cancer from carrying around kryptonite for so long. Him and Clark being childhood best friends. Stuff like that has been redone, and there are very few things that are consistent with some characters. Like the Joker, nobody knows. There are so many different versions of the Joker and quote unquote his past that I think he even says it at one point. He's like, sometimes I remember it one way, other times I remember it another way. But Lex Luthor's one of those characters that they've taken certain things and then they've kind of made them main continuity, and they work for the most part. But that's all of the Lex Luthors we kind of wanted to talk about. Any final thoughts on good old Lex Luthor? Let's start with Ronnie because he's so handsome.
Thanks, there, gorgeous.
Thanks, man.
Again, I think just to reiterate from what we've all been talking about this entire episode is, you've had some really good ones, and they've all been different and unique in their own ways. Even with the, animated version versus, TV and movies, even though with animated, you can make them look certain ways and sound certain ways and be certain ways, and it's easier. But, I mean, I think we talked about some of the most important ones. I think if I had even though I did not watch Smallville, but from what I've heard, I think Rosenbaum, is the top choice for best Lex Luthor that we've had.
Mr.
After
Luthor.
that, I would probably say either Cryer or Clancy Brown is number 2. I think the shows have done a better job at portraying Lex than the movies have.
Yeah.
Hopefully we get some changes and get to see another Lex in a few years with, the Superman movie that's coming out in a couple of years. So we'll see. But overall, again, probably the most iconic villain of all time when it comes to comic books. But kudos to Paul for this topic.
Thanks, man. Sean, final thoughts on Lex Luthor?
Pretty much to piggyback on what Ronnie says, I mean, we talked about pretty much all the interpretations that we've seen on film and a couple on TV, and then obviously with Clancy Brown animated. And they're all different. I mean, really, I don't think there's one that's similar. You could say maybe Spacey and Hackman are obviously because they're technically playing the same version of the character, but even still, they're different. So it goes to show that it's not a one-dimensional character. There's so many different ways you can play this character, and its growth since the character was created and where it is now. Yeah, it would be interesting to see, obviously, with this new Superman coming out, the James Gunn Superman, what is that going to be? Are we going to get a new Lex Luthor? Who knows? But, I mean, we're never going to see the end of this character. This character will be around forever. So I'm sure we'll have much more iterations of this character in the future, and looking forward to it because it's fun. It's like you're casting the superheroes. It's like you're casting Bond. I mean, when you hear who's being cast as this character, it's always an event to go see how they do.
Mm-hmm. So that's going to wrap us up. We're not going to have any Fan Feedback Friday this week just because at time of recording. We had to record a little bit earlier due to some scheduling conflicts, but we'll see. Maybe I'll edit it in. I don't know. We'll see. But that is going to wrap us up for today. If you guys are looking for more of our content, it's super easy. All you have to do is go to our website, themisfitfaction.com. We're also on social media. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. If you want some more Sean, you can go to Cinematic Adventures, one of our other podcasts. And if you want some more Ronnie, you can go to MF Uncensored. Or, just stop by. He'd love it. But anyway, that's going to wrap us up for today. As always, I'm Paul.
I'm Sean.
I'm Ronnie.
And he's on a bit of a delay. Sorry, guys. And we'll be back in a flash.
See ya.